Seth Rice wasn't always our best shot at archery gold in the Taxidermy Olympics. His early life as a brown bear outside of Napanoch, New York was what most people would call ordinary. He foraged for berries, frolicked in the grass, and bothered no one. That all changed one day in April 2004 when Seth was pumped full of 12 .338 bullets just outside of Minnewaska State Park after being mistaken for another bear that was raiding campsites. The hunters stuffed Seth and displayed him in their cabin in the Adirondacks, but they grew disinterested in Seth after just a few months. Seth was sold at a moving sale with a bow and arrow set. After falling off the car on the trip home, Seth taught himself to use the bow and arrow, vowing revenge on the hunters who took his natural life away from him. But until that day, Seth is proud to represent America at the Taxidermy Olympics. We're hoping he's right on the mark. Dr. Richard D. Strzelecki is a unique competitor in this most unique of athletic competitions. A common North American bobcat, descended from a long line of Eurasian lynxes, Richard lived a full life outside of Buckeye in Northern California, walking over grass, down a stone, and then past some ferns, and under some brush. One fateful day, Richard was hit and killed by a minivan on its way to Lake Shasta for the weekend. Richard was taxidermied and displayed at the Marion Koshland Bioscience Library at Berkeley. Taking advantage of his surroundings, Richard taught himself the basics of applied physics. Richard progressed through the graduate program, earning his master's and eventually his doctorate. In his spare time, Richard enjoyed the real-life physics of pole vaulting on the Berkeley track and field team. Dr. Strzelecki's goals are humble, simply to compete in the Taxidermy Olympics. But many are saying he has a shot at gold. Only time will tell for this most noble and degreed of champions. Donnie and Donna Burnham began their careers as most squirrels do, by simply hopping from tree to tree, leading their carefree existence with little thought of the future. Until one sunny weekday, they got stuck in a bird feeder and killed by a common house cat, which dragged their lifeless carcasses to its owner. The owner had the pair taxidermied so he could display them as a kitschy coffee table conversation piece, but they got lost in the mail. Instead, the brother and sister ended up getting shipped to the world-renowned taxidermy gymnastics school, led by former Soviet gold medalist Boris Dmitriev. He trained the siblings and gave them the focus and drive that they needed. Today, the Burnhams are a gymnastics tour de force, feared and respected the world over. They are widely expected to break several records at this Taxidermy Olympics and may surprise even themselves. Roger Pushman is an inspiration. Growing up in the mountains near Fort Collins, Roger never dreamt that he'd be one of the greatest taxidermied Olympic divers ever. Of course, he also never imagined he'd be shot by a helicopter as part of an effort to control mountain goat populations, or that he'd be found by hunters and dragged out of the forest, or sold to taxidermists, or used as a mascot for a local hunting and kayaking store, or be sold to an antique dealer in Hollywood, or have his prosthetic face detach in a humiliating and tragic display in front of a national audience on taxidermy divorce court. But now, that's all behind him, and Roger can focus on doing what he was born, then killed, then reborn to do. Dive in the Taxidermy Olympics.